And they sold about 100 of them, and Jobs said to me, that's the beginning of Apple. When we started doing that blue box, I knew that with Wozniak's brilliant designs and my marketing skills, we could sell anything.
That was still a few years off. Jobs enrolled at Reed College in Oregon at a time when Timothy Leary was telling students across the country to turn on, tune in, and drop out. Jobs did after one semester.
The time we grew up in was a magical time. It was also very, spiritual time in my life. Definitely taking LSD was one of the most important things in my life. And not the most important, but right up there.
He eventually drifted back to his parents' house and became one of the first 50 employees to work for the video game maker Atari. But he was not a big hit with his coworkers.
Never wore shoes, had very long hair, never bathed. In fact, when he went to work for Atari, they put him on the night shifts because people said he smelled so bad that they didn't want to work with him.
He believed that his vegan diet and the way he lived made it so he didn't have to use deodorant or shower that often. It was an incorrect theory, as people kept pointing out to him at Atari. He was a pretty abrasive and in some ways, cantankerous character. But these people at Atari, they kind of get him. And they say, well, we don't want you to leave, but how about working the night shift?
Jobs took a leave from Atari and spent 7 months wandering across India looking for spiritual enlightenment. And it turned out not to be a waste of time.
And when he comes back, he says, the main thing I've learned is intuition, that the people in India are not just pure rational thinkers, that the great spiritual ones also have an intuition. Likewise, the simplicity of Zen Buddhism really informed his design sense, that notion that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication.
When he returned from his trek, Jobs and Wozniak started building and peddling a primitive computer for hobbyists. With a $1,300 investment, they founded Apple Computer in his parents' garage.
Explain to me how somebody who was a hippie, a college dropout, somebody who drops LSD and marijuana, goes off to India and comes back deciding he wants to be a businessman.
Jobs has within him sort of this conflict, but he doesn't quite see it as a conflict, between being hippie-ish and anti-materialistic but wanting to sell things like Wozniak's board, wanting to create a business. And I think that's exactly what Silicon Valley was all about in those days.